Howdy folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and today for you I have another Mighty game review. And today this is Space Hulk Enhanced Edition. This is the PC version, and we're going to dive into it a little bit here. The developer is Sturm on Studio. The publisher is Focus Home Interactive. It is done with Unreal 4 engine. The platforms it was released on was Windows PC, that was in December of 2016, and PlayStation 4 on March of 2018. And it is an FPS game with single player as well as multiplayer co-op. It does not have like a PvP to the game as far as I'm aware of. However, based on how you set the game up, you can do damage to other players. It's just based on how you set your server rules up when you're setting up an online game. So this is set in the Warhammer 40,000 universe, Warhammer 40K, another Games Workshop IP, if you will. And it is an interesting game. It's got really great atmosphere. I like how the guns sound. They sound amazing. The atmosphere is just out of this world. Just the attention to detail that they do. The creatures look good. The Terminators look amazing. Everything really looks good. And honestly, this is the best looking Space Hulk game that's ever been done. No, folks, this is not the first Space Hulk game. Actually, this is probably, I want to say this is more like the 5th or 6th Space Hulk game that's been done. And it's kind of got more or less a cult following, fan following among the player base. Now, this is a bit more mainstream than the other Space Hulk games that have been made over the years. The other Space Hulk games were more based on the board game and tried to translate the whole tactical shooter experience of Space Hulk into a video game, which is originally actually a board game from Games Workshop. Once again, set in the same universe. And the plot element here is this the Space Marines, this is the Death Watch, so this is the Dark Angels chapter, has found a Space Hulk. Space Hulks are, think of basically more or less multiple ships that were shaped in the warp to combine into one giant ship, and they tend to be infested with gene stealers and other nasty horrors. And basically it ends up being a lot of corridor fighting because for some odd reason you always have to go into the Space Hulks. You can't just blow them out of space. You gotta go digging for artifacts and whatever else, and I don't understand it. Space Marines or battle barges has the firepower to completely devastate whole planets, but we can't devastate a ship in space. What? The plot holes of Space Hulk. Doesn't matter. It always ends up being a fun game. And it was actually the original Space Hulk was actually heavily inspired by the movie Aliens. That's the second Alien movie, folks. With the one where the Space Marines and the badassery and basically the xenomorphs ripping apart a whole bunch of Space Marines. Well, that's generally the idea here, is you're fighting in corridors, searching for an objective. It may be to destroy the power systems, find holy relics. There's different kinds of things. Destroy the Broodlord. But basically, there's multiple objectives. Get to this point, do this. Get to this point, destroy this location. Get to this point, defend this location. Get to this point, wipe everything out. And that's basically, generally speaking, the basis of Space Hulk. Now you have multiple classes. They all have their own different abilities, weapon selections, and etc. You have the Tactical Marine. You have the Apothecary, which is more like your medic. You have the Devastator, which is your heavy weapons specialist. Librarian, which is your psyker. I'm actually playing the Librarian right now. And it kind of crosses this badassery, hand-to-hand combat with also having psychic powers and actually some decent weapons itself. You have the Chaplain, which honestly, in my opinion, the Chaplain is actually the best of the different classes you could run, especially because it's got a teleport homer, and when you it's not a teleport homer, but it's like the teleport homer. Tactical Marine has a teleport homer. When one of your friends die, they're actually locked in like a cooldown state, usually for a minute or two. The Tactical Marine can use his teleport homer and essentially revive a downed Marine, which they go back to the arsenal and they can select their class, their equipment, and etc., and come back into the fight. With the Chaplain, though, he's got something like the teleport homer. I can't remember what it's called, unfortunately, but he can actually call in two at once. He's also got different types of buffs. He can add a vulnerability shield to an ally, stuff like that. And then you have the Assault Marine, which honestly, that's like the worst Marine. It's a pure hand-to-hand combat class, and it works fine on normal difficulty, and you can make it work on hard difficulty if you got a decent team with you and you got a good layout and you got some upgrades. But you really start to notice the limitations on hard difficulty, and any difficulty higher than hard difficulty, it's just a worthless class to play, because essentially the Gene Stealers are like apex predators. They're basically designed to hunt, kill, and chew you apart in hand-to-hand combat. And even the Assault Marine, even though the Assault Marine is better than any of the other Marine classes in hand-to-hand combat, it's still just not good enough compared to how devastating the Gene Stealers are. Alright, so I'm going to talk about some of the stuff I liked and disliked. I've talked about the atmosphere earlier. I think the graphics for the game actually look really good. I like how they did different things. They make each individual class feel unique. They added different unique properties to all the different weapons, and they feel pretty good for the most part. Stuff like that. You know, they've made things really shine. For the most part, the classes are balanced. However, there's definitely some balancing issues with some of the classes. Like I said earlier, the Chaplain is honestly the best class, and that's just because of how this game is set up. The Tactical Marine does pretty good, but you really got to have the flamethrower for the Tactical Marine to be worth anything. And I would say probably the next best class is actually the Apothecary. The Apothecary is pretty much a requirement here. Yeah, you're wearing these big heavy suits of Terminator armor, but honestly, it does not take much for a Gene Stealer to rip you apart. You could argue about how plausible that is with how things are set up in the 40K universe, but it is what it is. The next thing I want to really point out about the game is there's just so many balancing issues, which I guess really isn't an issue, but you kind of feel penalized by playing certain classes. You know, the Librarian really, to me, doesn't bring anything great to the table. The Devastator's a lot of fun to play, but the Assault Marine is really weak. Some of the weapons even doesn't really, while the weapons sound good and the models for the weapons look good, some of the weapons are, I wouldn't say completely worthless, but they're not probably as good as they should be, especially particularly the Stormbolter. Next thing I want to point out is the single player. I tried to get you some footage of the single player, and I just could not get footage of the single player that was worth showing. And that's mostly because the bots in single player are completely worthless. Just absolutely worthless. They could not kill a Gene Stealer if the Gene Stealer was standing right in front of them doing nothing. The bots are so horrible. They're always in the way. The game just was not worth playing in single player. And honestly, I don't recommend playing this game in single player. The only way I would really play this game is you could play it with some randoms, which some of the randoms aren't bad. But if you got buddies to play with this game, it's definitely worth a playthrough, especially if you got buddies that actually know what the hell they're doing, because some of the maps are really confusing. It's a lot of tight corridors, which actually favors the Gene Stealers, which that's definitely a Space Hulk trope. But yeah, other than that, there's not much else to really cover over here. I'm going to weigh in on my opinion about Space Hulk, if I feel it's worth it or not. It's $30 on Steam, folks, and that's for the enhanced edition. Now, the game also does have 3 completely free DLCs. You have to manually download them. They don't automatically download themselves, which is kind of screwed up, but whatever. You purchase the game, install the game, and then you got to go back to the store and then download the 3 free DLCs. There's also a soundtrack, which is whatever. I never spend money on soundtracks. That being said, for $30, the game has a really small community, and I have problems trying to get online multiplayer games sometimes. Sometimes I log in and there's actually absolutely no one playing online, or at least there's no lobbies showing up for me. I do have a couple friends that play this game, and that's actually the only way I would recommend this game, is if you have friends that also has this game that's willing to have it installed and play games with you, because this game as a single player experience is just a totally negative experience based on how useless the AI is, and there's only so much you can do as one Marine. So yeah, generally speaking, I would not recommend this game. Even though it looks good, it's a lot of fun to play, but you got to have buddies that play it too. If you don't have buddies, there's just no point of buying this game. Anyway, folks, that is my review for Space Hulk Deathwing. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for tuning in, and hopefully I'll see you again for my next video game review.